Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's great to be with you. This is episode 233A of Tales with TR. I'm your host, Terry Ryan Jr. And thank you to the Black Falls Bulldogs. I went all the way out after our Shoresy road trip to Black Falls, which is outside Red Deer. My old stomping grounds. Played junior in Red Deer, as you know, a little bit. And the game got canceled. So now we did end up going to watch the Rebels game with a bunch of the sponsors and everything else. Michelle Brown took me out there. Thanks a lot, Michelle. And then afterwards, we did meet some guys on the team and some men and women that work for the team. And we all went to Bose, one of their sponsors. We had a great time. Unfortunately, I didn't get to drop the puck or do the Q&A or any of that stuff. So I'll be back. Just have a look at my Instagram stories, Terry Ryan 2020. And I'm going to be back sooner than later because Michelle and the team were nice enough to pay me. But in my mind, I have to go back and fulfill that. And I mean, honestly, they were cool with it. What nice people. I won't say cool with it, but they're like, hey, we brought you out here. We paid you. I'm like, guys, are you fucking serious here? It's awesome. I mean, I like heading to central Alberta, any part of Alberta, friends all over, but I enjoyed it anyway. It was just the end of a long road trip with Shoresy, and before that, a few fundraising events for Hockey Helps the Homeless and stuff. So it was definitely, and it is on some level work. I got to leave my daughter and everything. I mean, that's really the biggest part of it is missing her. Soccer and just growing up. I enjoy spending time with my family as you would, my mom and dad. And even Danielle or Penny Lane's mother, Danielle, is from Red Deer, right? So I'm still friends with the family and her friends and all that. So to me, it's important to get back to Alberta. It was just at the end of a long road, but still, Black Falls, great people. I mean it, and hooked me up with some awesome boots that I got at Weiss. Is it Weiss? Western Wear? WEI''S, I think. Look that up just to make sure. They treated me just awesome. They're one of the sponsors, I believe. Anyway, what a wicked Western store, man. I can't believe it. It's right in the heart of Red Deer. I don't know how long it's been there. How did I not know about it? I don't know. I mean, because I lived there for a while and I like the cowboy shtick. I like, I can ride a horse. I'm not a cowboy and I've never lived on a farm. Danielle's parents had a ranch. I think they still do. They raise cattle and all that. And I lived out west. So, but don't kid yourself. I put on my cowboy boots. I'm no more of a fucking cowboy than Daffy Duck. But I enjoy the style, really do. And some country music really hits. I mean, I'm going back to like Patsy Cline. Like was one of my first two loves in music were Patsy Cline and Buddy Holly. Now, Buddy Holly isn't quite country. I think you'd say rockabilly though, and it's right. It's both of it's the 50s, right? So I don't know. It wasn't easy. I find Buddy Holly a little bit country. I do a lot of his stuff. Again, maybe rockabilly, which starts to hit. You add a bluegrass, or you add a banjo to rockabilly, and you've got yourself bluegrass. So, or at least a form of it. And rock and roll was just starting. I don't think it was a fucking term yet. But anyway, so I know Patsy Cline is considered country. And so those were my first like two real big influences. I got into Beatles after that, and the Beatles' biggest influence, one of them, was definitely Buddy Holly. I mean, they didn't cover many artists, right? I know that reading their books, they loved Chuck Berry. They loved a lot of the R&B, black African American music of the time, Little Richard stuff like. Oh, I mean, geez, they covered Long Tall Sally. That's Little Richard. They covered Roll Over Beethoven and rock and roll music. Those are both Barry. They covered Buddy Holly with Words of Love. But they didn't cover anybody when they got it off the ground and became the Beatles. Their later stuff. But, they really had a high respect for a lot of those. And, even Hank Williams and stuff, right? You go back there's a real heart to a lot of Hank Williams. Yeah, it's twangy and, it's really old. And you're talking like going back almost 100 years at this point. To really, well, not quite, but almost, Hank Williams, you're going back you're way predating Elvis. And which was about like mid-50s, right? Like I said, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. But I lived on a ranch when I played junior. Neil Tomelty, who I ran into again, and Vera, she didn't come to the game. They were nice enough to take myself and Scott Bird in. I took Chris Knobloch's room. It's no shit. They traded him. They got me in. We didn't get traded for each other. I was later in the year or whatever. I'm not sure who he got traded for, but so we both played on the Red Deer Rebels in 96, 97. We just didn't come across each other because he'd already been traded. But anyway, country's been a big, and not only the style, Johnny Cash, of all the music biopics, biopic, whatever you want to call it, tomato. I loved Walk the Line. It's a lot of Johnny Cash resonates with me. If I learned one thing in folklore, it's that our identities are forever changing, and we're kind of borrowing, whether we know it or not, whether it's subconscious or not. And think about it. If you're, you can sit outside and people watch people, kids, or, walking into, I don't know, last year of high school or their university years when their personalities being shaped. And, at that point, you really want to go out. And I'm not saying I said, I want to dress like this guy or Johnny Cash, or you're into hip hop, you're probably going to wear, I don't know, these days, some, I don't know, different kind of baseball hat, straight beat. You're probably going to have a hoodie. Maybe not. I don't know. You might have some grills. There's all kinds of shit that turns up, and nothing is static. If you like country, you're probably gonna have cowboy boots. I don't know. I'm being very general here, but I think if you were to check out at least my style, whatever that would be, a lot of it is borrowed from, everybody from watching. I like wearing suits to games still, or at least something dressy. That's probably from wearing a suit growing up to the ranch, and then, meeting Jean Beliveau and guys like that, and Guy Lafleur in Montreal, who always seemed really professional. But I'm not that guy. I couldn't always be Jean Beliveau because it's not me. And I'm not saying I tried to, but there's certain things I borrowed. Definitely his demeanor as a captain. I could never be that. I'm too eccentric, too high strung, but I really respected it. And I learned what to look for in other captains or friends or people that, I want to be around, right? Not everything is, like I said, static. And, when it comes to Johnny Cash, I like the attitude. I grew up middle class, but really in a grade, I grew up, I skipped a grade. So I was a year young at least, and 2 years younger than a lot of the class because you could fail back then a grade. And our school had a lot of those people that would have failed a grade. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the school. I just mean in my class in grade 7, say grade 8, there was lots of people 2 years older than me. And pretty much everybody was 1 year because, again, I skipped a grade. But what I'm saying is that, that kind of fuck the man or like stick up to the bullies. I'm sure it helped me in hockey, being like I said, an only child and skipping a grade. And then I go to play hockey. I'm 14. What am I going to do to try to fit in? I'm going to try to win a fight. How am I going to do that? I put a hot sauce in my hands. All those are funny little stories that went along with it, but really looking for acceptance. And, so who do I identify with, man? I'm listening to music, probably more Johnny Cash than like Tears for Fears. You know what I mean? Now, even though I like 80s music in general, and hey, I love a good Duran Duran song or whatever. His buddy's name's Simon LeBron. Anyway, I don't really know, like, because some of the music I'd like, but say being a hockey player, I identified with AC/DC, right? Like we're gonna go. These guys are gonna make us rock and warm up before the game. I kind of wore that clothes, more like leather jackets. Those guys appealed to me. So I'm probably, so jeans and a t-shirt, salt and pepper hat, I wear that often. I don't know if I'm saying I want to be like Brian Johnson, but it resonates with you, certain things. And that's musicians. I don't know. As far as athletes, I liked, it wouldn't have to be all hockey. I'll go outside of hockey. I hate to be obvious too, but I liked Michael Jordan. He seemed to have a good time, back before social media, he'd be in People magazine or Rolling Stone every second week, smoking a cigar. There's famous stories that he golfed 36 holes and then go play. All these things were really intriguing, and I couldn't believe the best player in the world was such, not a party animal, because he wasn't. Watch The Last Dance, you know what I mean? But he was a bit of an anomaly. He wasn't afraid to show his personality. And when it came to work, he was like really demanding. And I just identified with that a bit. I know I'm not Michael Jordan. I know it, but I'm saying of the, more than Allen Iverson, right? Do we really have to practice? Or fuck, what's practice? What was that line anyway? I think it was Iverson. Practice? You talking about practice? In other words, what the fuck are you talking about? Whereas Jordan would spend like twice as much time practicing as anybody else. And not that my results were the same, but I just liked the way he went about it. Right now, did I style my clothes after Michael Jordan? No, but definitely when I came to go play sports, I would think about, and I read his book, and how he approaches the game. And, he went from barely making the team in first year high school. And then, the odds always seemed to be against him until he became the best player on the planet, which wasn't long after he entered the NBA. But I got a lot of that shit. Small town, Canada is very similar to small town America. The movie Hoosiers, right? Reminded me of like the Mount Pearl Blades, even though it's a different sport. It just kind of did, So, God, I've gone off here, but wild how I just get going. I was going to answer the question: is Sidney Crosby going to get traded? That's what Curtis wanted to know from Fort Saskatchewan, which is right out around there. It's it's closer to Edmonton than anything. But anyway, point is, I love being out west. It's often a gift just to get to go out there. So, first world problem is that I went out there and all that way, and snowstorm. I got paid, didn't sell any books. I'm sure I will when I go back out, but it doesn't matter. And the point is, because I'm going to go back out, I'm going to drop the puck and do the Q&A and all of the above. The people treated me unbelievable. And the guys on the team, 6 or 7 of them came out for a bite to eat. We went over to the Silver Buckle, where I ran into some people that are huge Shoresy fans and didn't really know I was going to be there. Neither did I. I didn't know I'd be at the Silver Buckle at 1 and 2 in the morning either. But when in Rome, so it was fucking unbelievable, and I can't wait to get back to Black Falls, and I really will. So fans out there, fret not. Well, if you even cared in the first place, I'm sure some people are going, "Who the fuck's this guy?" But anyway, we had some good tickets sold. It was nearly sold out, and I'm going to go back. We're going to do it again, I promise. Okay, so to get back, Curtis wanted to know, I don't know anything about whether Sidney Crosby's going to get traded, guys. I mean, how would I? The way he framed the question is that, because I played with, one of my good friends is Mark Tobin. And Mark Tobin is a firefighter here, was drafted in the second round, played with Sidney Crosby and Rimouski. And I've mentioned that. So Curtis's question wasn't so out of line that it's crazy, because he was acting like I had an inside scoop, right? And I got that. I try to take questions I get a lot of, and I had like 3 or 4 people ask me that. And the same thing when I was out west. You sit down, you talk hockey. I went to the Rebels game. I love having a hockey chat as much as anybody. And I've often said I'd rather do it in person than online. So, and I do have often, not a scoop. I would never ask Tobes, but, Tobes talks to Crosby a lot. And each time they won, Crosby, Sid flew him down. Sid came over here to Corner Brook, Newfoundland for Tobes' wedding. They're like really, really good friends. But I'm good friends with Tobes, and I would never want to disrespect his friendship by trying to get a scoop for my podcast or whatever. So I don't. But what I do know, and I've been listening to a lot, I listen to a lot of radio shows, sports shows. I don't know if it was Al's brother on TSN. I don't know if it was Grinelli or with Chicklets or RA. Maybe it was on Overdrive. I don't know. I mean, I do the Gregor show, so it probably came up on there. I don't really remember, but someone in all of this said that might have been Pierre LeBrun, but he said, there's one thing, there's two things we know about Crosby, right? Is that he wants to be a Penguin his whole life. And I think he said he loves winning. I would go Shoresy route. He hates losing. Okay. So he wants to be a Penguin, but he hates losing. So those things contradict each other, obviously. I just think it probably would have happened already. They wouldn't have gone all in. When Carl Dubas took over in Pittsburgh, the first thing he did was call the leaders, first of which is Crosby. Crosby must have told him, let's go for it. I mean, in certain situations in sports, someone of that acclaim that's been there so long, that's won so much, we're talking 2 decades, right? Delivered them a few cups, came in after Lemieux when it seemed that everything was down and out, right? With Letang and Malkin still there. And, people like Fleury that are folk heroes there forever. I just didn't see it happening. And he seemed like, it just seemed like it would already be done if he wanted it to be done. But now they're like really bad, right? Like it is a dumpster fire, some of those games, man. It's awful. Awful. Didn't he get his 600th goal the other night? Great, but wasn't it in like a 5 or 6-1 fucking shellacking? And do you want that? And not only that, if you're Pittsburgh and you unleash some of those guys, because I honestly, let's just say you're talking. I'm leaving Carlson and guys like that out. I'm just saying guys that have been there a while, positional players. Crosby, Malkin, Letang. Let's just say those guys, right? I know there's others that have been there a while, but let's just go with those guys that have been there for, the better part of 2 decades. They all still are pretty good, right? That's the thing. The team sucks. But you would think if you were just to look at paper by now, given these guys' ages, that's the reason. But I really, it isn't. They're still all playing pretty well. And like in Sid's case, he's still Sid. Last year was one of his best years. So I think you could get lots. Now, I know I heard on one of the Toronto shows that, he could fit on the Leafs. Could fit. I mean, he could fucking, anyway, but you know what I'm saying? Like the Habs aren't calling him. There's only going to be 6 to 10 teams, probably 6, that really could use him and have the assets to do. And not only that, right? So think of what, like in a situation like the Leafs, of course, like those guys are in their prime or younger, like in 3 or 4 years, like Marner and Matthews, for example, and Tavares will be at the very, very end of his career if he's even playing. Nylander, these guys are going to be 30 plus, right? And the new group will be, I don't know, not the new, but the guys that'll be just humming will be, Celebrini and Bedard. That's the way it turns over. So Crosby, yeah, he's aging, but I think you're going to get quality years. Do you really not trust Sidney Crosby? Think he's going to pull a fucking Kawhi Leonard? I need time management, load management, whatever the fuck he's talking about. Crosby to a team like, well, I'm just saying the Leafs. I don't want to. They brought it up, man. O'Dogger, one of them, I heard talking about it too. He said, don't fucking talk about it because people will be down your throat. Look, I'm just trying to answer your question, Curtis, and I'm taking all of the knowledge that I have on the subject from listening to all the sports shows, man. I think even Pat McAfee fucking talked about it for a little bit of a few days ago, or at least the clip I saw could have been older. He brings up hockey once in a while. But yeah, so I think it'd be great for Pittsburgh. It'd be great for those, not just Crosby, any other older players there that, because you could get a good return for them right now. and they're not winning anything. And I think in Crosby's case, since you're asking the question specifically about him, like I said, let's just say the Leafs. If you're going for it now, I could go with fucking Rangers. I don't know, Vegas, Florida. I can all the top teams, okay, that are going to go for it, that have younger players. Of course, like they're only going to be this good for so long because of the way the contracts work and the salary cap. So any team is only going to have a window that's good right now. Is real. I mean, hopefully they're all good for their sake in 4 or 5 years from now. But again, just to be specific about the Leafs, because that's where the rumor, whatever started. It would be all right because you got to assume that in a few years you're going to either have those best players or start their decline, or they're split up. They're not playing together anymore. I'll add Riley in there. He's one of that group. Like right now, and again, I know Toronto got other fucking wicked players, but let's just say Toronto. Let's just say Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, and Riley. That's who's driving the ship right now. So in 3 or 4 years from now, if you get Crosby, you'd have him for at least 2.5 because that's his contract. I think that's your window anyway, right? So who cares if you get Crosby? He's older. You're going to get 2.5 or more great years out of him. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just telling you that I don't see it as some old, wily, squaggly tooth fuck who's like just there for leadership purposes. I think he's still one of the best players in the league. And I think he's going to be for the duration of his contract. And they can get so much back. I guess my answer to you is that how piss poor are Pittsburgh going to be? If they were just pushing for a playoff spot like the last 2 years, they didn't get in, but like they were pushing. If they were just mediocre, I think Crosby might even stay. I'm nobody. Maybe he'll stay if they lose fucking 50 in a row. I don't know. But for me, it's a weird look to have someone that's not only have been the best in the game, but one of the best in the game for so long. And the most, well-spoken, I guess, or at least in my mind, one of the best leaders ever in sport, one of the biggest contributors to our Canadian hockey history, and at least in the last 20 years has dominated the sports culture. He's influenced so many young players. So Sidney Crosby could not play another game right now, and I would be emphatically thankful that he ever chose to put on skates in the first place. I'm a huge Sidney Crosby fan, and I'm no one to speculate or even judge what he's going to do. I'm just telling you that I see that of all the things I've heard, he loves winning, hates losing, but he loves playing for the Penguins, and he wants to be one for life. Those contradict each other, is all I'm saying. And I think a star like that could probably only take so much embarrassment. It's one thing to lose 6-5. It's one thing to be knocked out of the playoffs with 5 days remaining in the regular season. It's another thing to be an absolute 5-alarm fucking dumpster fire, right? And that's what they are right now. So I still don't think he's going anywhere, but I do think it's more realistic than it was 3 months ago, for sure. Brad Lukowich tomorrow. Thanks for listening. If you're downtown St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Sorry, but by the way, about the mic, I'll have a new one. I'm using the computer. I broke my microphone. If you're downtown St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, you want to check it out, you want to check out George Street, why not check out the Trinity Pub? Why not Rob Roy Confusion, the Martini Bar, Green Sleeves, and of course the Bull and Barrel. If you're going to go for a bite to eat, Blue on Water, Loose Tie, and Wedgwood Cafe, I keep fucking telling you, Wedgwood Cafe also do catering. Ryan Power, power conditioning, strength and balance for the body and mind. You heard it here first. He's the best around. Check it. Well, you might not have heard it here first, but you hear it here an awful lot. Thank you to Ryan Power for everything he does for me and my daughter and her friends and all the wonderful, capable young athletes and old athletes in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Go to Mr. Lube. There's 2 locations in St. John's. One's on Torbay Road. One is on Campbell Road. Live, laugh, lube. Pippo Pain Relief. Pain sticks just don't quit. Go to pippopainrelief.com. See what all the fuss is about. True hockey. Take what's yours. Of course, I love my Mugsy jeans. They're comfortable. They're stretchy. God love my Mugsy jeans. Catch you guys on the rebound. Thanks for listening. I'll be back in just a couple of days with Brad the Man Lokowicz.